it does get discouraging, but I am determined to make this business a go. I believe, and I'm not stroking my own anything, but I believe I have a product that people want in the scarves. In my art, it's a different thing. Art is very subjective. You could have a room full of 10 people. One person will like the piece of art on the wall. The other 9 people will criticize it.
Right.
So that's much more difficult to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
I have been. Been with 2 different galleries in LA since I've been here. I've had shows, et cetera, et cetera. That functions in itself, but I realize that the scarf business is a legitimate business to grow.
Yeah.
I have a couple of irons in the fire now about going the next step, business-wise. I want to make this the year it happens. And yes, I have been very determined since the beginning to make this happen.
Yeah.
So do I get discouraged when I call or go to 10 different retail stores and get turned away? Yes. But I come home and I pull up my big boy pants and I'm like, you know what? That's 10 people out of a million.
That's right.
Let's go to the next group. Let's go to the next group.
So excited to sit down with my friend Bruce Samia, who is a hairdresser in the film industry, but he is also a designer of apparel. And his work and his dedication to art and the expression on fabrics is just beyond. And it's something that I so love and want to honor and resonate, because as a small business and an entrepreneur, getting seen, being heard, getting your workmanship and your artistry off the ground is such a huge dedication to commitment and making a decision and showing up and being consistent. And his work is outstanding. I mean, I would compare it to the best of the best in regards to just artistry and the qualities and the joy that it brings people. So I look forward to you and I listening and sitting down with Bruce in a very short time here and hearing what what his passions are and what he has envisioned for his life and how that's manifested and what he's looking forward to in the future for himself and his legacy. So stay tuned. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, baby. Boom. I gotta fix my hair.
Hey.
Babe, I love the blonde, by the way.
We're gonna have the wild hair podcast.
Yeah, we do.
With Bruce
I have the wild white, you have the wild blonde.
It's like, why contain it with Bruce? Of all people, be yourself.
I am.
So I just want to say thank you. We're recording. I want to say thank you as we quaff the dues for joining me on the. Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, no. I mean, I'm going to finish this sentence so people know what I'm talking about. You, my dear friend, Bruce Samia, is somebody I know since 2004, I believe. No, 2006.
Yeah, 2006.
2006.
It's crazy to think that.
I know. It doesn't really resonate when you're talking about 2022.
No.
And there you have it. That's
and it gets even more frightening knowing that I have a birthday coming up next month. This month, like 2 weeks.
No, but that's not frightening because thank God you have a birthday coming up.
Yeah, that's true.
That?
That's true. I like that.
We're here to
celebrate. Yeah, I am going to celebrate this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we know each other since 2004. You and I met, you doing hair, me doing makeup. But there's so much more to you and I. There's so much more to you. And that's why I wanted to have you here, because my whole point of this podcast is gathering people around the campfire and my campfire so we can have conversations about, you know, what are your passions? What makes you tick? What did you want to do as a little boy? How did that manifest into your, truth in your present day? And what are you seeking to do going forward? So I just want to dance through this conversation with you.
All right.
And thank you for being open to doing it with me.
Yeah.
I love even the body language. You're starting to open up more.
Well, you know what? I will admit I was a little nervous about this. I've never done this. I think it's a very cool thing. And I thank you for doing this and having me on.
My pleasure. So let's get started. And we met in 2004 doing the show Cold Case. We were working with Catherine Morris, beautiful, stunning international television star.
Yeah.
Catherine Morris, who we both love and adore. And I love the guest starring of the kitty.
Oh, you're gonna get a couple of guest spots. I've tried to get them off here.
No, don't.
No.
No. I'm surrounded by dog breathing, jumping on bed. If the cats weren't in the condo outside, they'd be like all up, like crossing paths through the screen.
Yeah. Oh, he's like, what's going on? Wait a minute, why aren't I involved?
Oh, we're having a party. Oh, good. Let's make this happen. Oh my God. So we met doing that series. And we, had so much fun, and we had an immediate connection. And as our lives have ebbed and flowed in and out, passing through because of jobs and time and so forth of our commitments, the beautiful thing is our lives have been able to cross paths a lot more in the more recent, even with this crazy time of life we've been going through.
Yep.
So I wanted to sit down with you, and I wanted to have this conversation that we do love. We're good at talking, even though I've done most of the talking already.
That's okay.
Lame the turf. So, yeah, I wanna know, when I met you, Bruce, in 2006, you were doing hair. Tell me in the audience, you come from the East Coast, clearly.
I do.
But I mean that in a loving way. So tell me, you started in the Boston area?
I spent from Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I spent the majority of my working career in the salon industry. In about 1991, I was flown to Miami for a photo shoot.
Yeah.
I left Boston in a snowstorm, arrived in South Beach. They immediately drove us to the beach and started shooting that day. And I was standing in a tank top and shorts. That's when I realized something was wrong with my life.
Right.
So I made arrangements, and took about a year. I was with the salon I was with for years. And I was getting a little tired of that industry.
Yeah.
I originally started out in art school.
Yeah.
As a graphic designer. And that kind of, in a roundabout way, led to cutting hair.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me to the salon industry.
Mm-hmm.
Went down to Miami, did that shoot, and realized there's more to life than standing behind a chair in a salon.
Right.
Because I've always had a passion for my art. And I would always do art on the side and then go back to work, etc. So I made a decision. I had owned property in Boston, got rid of it at a major loss. I just wanted to get out. And put a U-Haul in the back of my car and drove down to South Beach, knowing one person there. And on the way, there, I called her and said, I'm moving to South Beach. I need an apartment. She said, as it so happens, one opened up in my building. I said, give me the landlord's name, and got it on the phone, over the phone, and moved into that apartment and stayed there for 10 years.
Ah,
Yeah, it was very magical to me.
Mm.
And what I did was I took the first year in South Beach. I completely got away from the hair industry and all of that drama. And I just kind of chilled for a year, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with them. While that was happening, I was sitting home at night and doodling and making little pieces of art and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I realized that art is what I prefer to do. And because at that time in South Beach, it was very affordable to live, I could afford to not have to work full time and concentrate on my art.
Yeah.
So there I came up with, once I decided I wanted to spend all my energy doing my art, I had to come up with a style of art that I wanted to do.
Yeah, your signature.
So that's what I did. And I ended up doing paper collages mounted on wood, and just started doing all of it. It was a beautiful little old Spanish building. It was a huge family. Everybody knew each other in the building. We were a big family. Nobody locked their doors. Everybody just walked in and out of apartments, eating, socializing, whatever.
Perfection.
It was really a magical time. And when I realized that this was like a magical time, I'm saying I need to just take advantage of this.
Yeah.
And just put my soul back in order again.
Yeah.
I was 3 blocks from the beach, bike riding, rollerblading, swimming every morning. I just needed to get myself back together.
Yeah.
And all the while working on my art and coming up with this whole paper collage. I had a yard. I could varnish and paint outside. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I started to need a little money as things went on, as all artists do, because nothing is instant success. And I had a friend who was a photographer, and he was doing headshots for all the modeling agencies in South Beach.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, that was a very big thing in South Beach. Everybody wanted to be in South Beach shooting, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the Germans, thank God for the Germans that they came back in the 80s and revived that whole movement and interest, and how that whole fashion industry started to revive that whole city, actually. I mean, the drugs didn't hurt, or the drug lords, but the fashion industry was the legit side of all of that. So, what we think. So please continue.
No, it's true. And so I was doing hair on the side at home to make extra money. And he's like, you know what? I'm doing these photographs. Come and do the hair. And I did. And that started a secondary cycle. I was still doing my art and still enjoying my living there. But that led to commercials, which led to a lot of TV pilots, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the TV pilots I did in 2000 or 2001 got picked up. The producer called me and said, we've been picked up by ABC. She wants you to come out to LA. I was like, let me think about it. And he said, I'll give you an hour. Went to the beach, went for a swim, called him back and said, when do I need to be there? He said, in 3 weeks. I packed everything up and I hit the road with 3 cats in my Jeep, pulling a U-Haul, and drove across the country. Again, landing in LA, I knew one person. On the way, I bought an LA Times online, and I found an apartment. I was like, at least someplace to live. Production told me, why don't you just look in Studio City? And that's what I did. Came here, and I'm still in the same place 20 years later.
Oh my God.
Once I got here, it started my film career. I was on a show for a few years, and then jumped on Cold Case and met you, and the rest is history. Here we are on the far end of it, with me pulling back out to concentrate on my art and my new business. And it was an amazing career here in LA doing hair, film, and TV. I still work in it, as you know. We ran into one another a couple of weeks ago on a set. But slowly, I'm just doing that as a day playing thing. There we go, right? He asked, "Hi, I'm here. Who forgot about me?"
Oh, so good.
My name is Freddie, in case nobody knows.
Ellen,
Yeah, and then it'll go
Ellen,
this
soft
way.
focus.
Yeah. And so that's where I'm at. I'm still involved in the industry, not full time, because for the past couple of years, I've been concentrating first on my art and then starting and building a small company designing and manufacturing silk scarves, which is what my goal is to do completely, is to have some sort of small company that would do this.
Well, on that note, so first off, I know I've heard bits and pieces of this story that I would probably be able to link all together, but the in between juicy parts, like, the how you ended up Miami, I think I kind of remember, but I didn't know about the living situation and how great that was. Just, I don't think I remember knowing that you had a place in Boston that gave you that breathing room when you first went down there. But again,
Yes.
like, just,
It
it
was
wasn't, go
it
ahead.
was, it was fate. I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
No. It was perfect, like a
Okay.
perfect place.
It was a bad real estate deal,
Ah,
partners, and it just got money wise so out of control. It was
mm,
in the early 80s when
mm.
banks were literally giving anybody money. I would literally be at the salon in the middle of cutting hair. The plumber would call and say, "All the tiles arrived. Do you want us to start?" I'd call the bank and say, "I need another $5,000. I need another 10 grand. No problem. We'll put it in your bank." A year later, it was an outrageous amount of money. So I just walked away from
Yeah.
it. And at the time, it was very upsetting. It was a great
Yeah.
building. I thought that's what my life would be. I was born and raised in Boston. And then I realized it was a great opportunity to change my life for the better. I always believed it was a change for the better. So, like I said, it took about a year. My boss didn't want me to leave. The paperwork, all that. And then it all happened, and I left and drove myself to Selby.
Well, I want to also stop on that point because you talked about a key thing that many people unconsciously have issues with, and that's change. Being fluid, being present, being recognizing an opportunity, and everything that you've shared up to this point has been about being present, recognizing an opportunity, you have a choice in the road. Do you go left or do you go right? And these were your choices, these were your decisions, and this has been your journey. And I think it's inspiring because, and I think it's inspiring for people to hear is to my point, because certainly when you and I started in the industry, there was still a very stoic, stable corporate, still is corporate, but a different kind of viewpoint of how you go about living in corporate and what that's going to mean. Doesn't mean a 30-year career, and you get your 401k. What my point to this is, you and I as freelancers and change, that's inevitable, but that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
It is. And when I first started in this business, I'm never afraid of change. Change doesn't frighten me to the point where I'm like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm afraid of what will happen. It may take me a lot of thinking and contemplating on what possibly could be, you can't predict how things will happen. So I believe you just need to take a chance and do it. You know, and the
Well,
same thing happened when I left Miami to come to LA. It was like a split second decision, really. I was like, okay, you know what? Time for a change.
we're in an industry that getting then deeper into the industry, what you realize is it is constantly changing. Yeah, some people stay in the same place for 20 years, no different than like where you live. You've been in your place for 20 years, the place before for 10, and back in Boston, you know, however many there. So, you know, that is that is your foundation, your stability in that way. That's how you are a nester. But you also, everything else that you probably do in your life has more of that, let's change this up, or it just changes because change is inevitable. It's like death and change. Those two things you can count on.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Everything else is a toss of the die.
So there you have it. Now that we got life figured out, you know, these are your options. What are you going to do?
That's it.
So, I mean, growing up as a little boy in Boston, who were your influences? Like, what inspired you?
Well, I think probably, I know it sounds cliche, probably my biggest influence was my mother. My mother had beautiful taste. She had a great eye for design. She was a working housewife. She never fulfilled her dreams. And I would listen to her talk saying that, you know, I wish my life had gone this way. I'm happy, but I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do this. And I think subconsciously that resonated with me. So that when it came time for me to make a decision, like to go to art school, most of my family was against that, except my mother. I grew up in the 50s with that mentality. And I was expected to follow in my father's footsteps and blah, blah, blah. And
which was what?
He was an electrician, freelance electrician.
Was it a family-owned business?
No, he worked for a large corporation called Western Electric at the time.
Oh, yeah. Just a little company called Western Electric.
Correct. And he was the head electrician for the company in Andover.
Wow. Wow.
And I was always expected to follow in that. And I didn't. My life was
okay, wait a minute. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that's okay.
Did you live in Andover, Mass?
No, we lived in Lawrence.
Okay.
So in that little circle is Lawrence, Methuen, Andover. Is kind of like one little community.
And is that where the boarding school is?
The boarding school's in Andover. That's what Phillips Academy is.
Phillips Academy.
Exeter. Yeah,
Exeter. Yeah, I looked at all those schools.
Yeah. Great schools. Can you imagine? We might have met 20 years earlier.
Point. I'm just like, how are we just discovering this?
Right? See, it was all meant to be. It's all intertwined.
It's such a beautiful thing. That's again why this is why I love this so much, because to me that was always the thing. You're sitting around, you're being yourself. Next thing you know, you have all these discoveries, all this exchange. It's all about connection. It's all about like burning the flame and how does that light up. And this is a perfect example that we had no idea. The only reason why I didn't go to any of those schools wasn't because I wasn't accepted. I couldn't afford to go, but I needed to get the hell out of my public high school situation at the time because of a series of things in life.
Right.
And and so that's how I ended up in the Midwest, where they did give me money and let me have a fresh start.
That's good. See, it worked.
It worked. So this is the point. Change is inevitable, and change is a really positive thing if you just accept that that's what's going to be. And listen, when I say it, as you know, as a friend, and I don't doubt for yourself as well, like talking about processing and taking time and having, knock wood, the luxury to do that. And that's a big thing too, having the luxury. My sister and I were talking about that earlier. luxury for an artist isn't always what we think it is, unless
No.
you just want to like just be on the edge of your seat and not have a roof over your head and stuff. I never wanted to be a starving artist. I needed to like get to business.
Yeah.
You know, so and nobody was going to hand it to me. And boy, talk about an education and debt and all this. I just read this article from this guy in the HuffPost. Then he was talking about like the amount of debt from education and no guarantees and all that stuff, and having to get out, and you know the choices people have, and you know these were the choices you had, just like we all have choices.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to hear what choices were presented to you, what choices you made, and as an artist, the way you were able to seamlessly and successfully, you know, manifest opportunities and live your journey in a way that was fluid and gave you change while it gave you stability.
Yep. Well, I could afford to do that, very fortunately, in South Beach, again, because it was very affordable to live there in the 90s.
Right.
It wasn't what South Beach is now. It wasn't all built up. It was a very small community. Everybody knew everybody. It was really a magical time. Anybody who's lived in South Beach through the 90s will say the same thing. It was the height of South Beach. It was when the magic happened. It was, I mean, I'm not throwing names around, but it was so laid back, like seriously laid back, not pretentiously, that you literally would walk down the beach and there is Versace and all the supermodels sitting on the beach on blankets with tables of food, and you'd walk by and they'd be like, come sit down,
Right.
food, have a glass of wine with us. There was
Right.
nothing pretentious about it. It was
Right.
just, you know, there were normal people. We didn't oogle and ah when we saw celebrities. It was a very cool place.
Like
And
Gloria and
listen,
her husband at the
Yep.
time.
yeah,
Well, but this is the thing, it was a big shift that was happening because it had been the Bubbies and the Papas from
Yep.
the East Coast.
yeah,
And it was during that period that now the South American countries and Cuba and then Asian communities were coming in. And there was a big shift. Like the 80s was a big shift. The late 70s, early 80s went through a big depression, recession. All of South Beach, all those Art Deco hotels, they all were dilapidated. They were not in their heyday anymore. And it was Versace that started, along with I believe the German artists coming in to do the fashion work, that started that, as well as what I'm sorry, I just like went out of my head. What was the series? The Miami Vice. Really?
Miami. Go ahead.
No, you
I'll
go
add
ahead.
to that. Miami Vice was actually the reason South Beach became South Beach.
Mhm.
The art South Beach, as you know, was all Bubba's. It was a little peninsula. Every building was white. The art department on Miami Vice came up with the deco colors that the city then adopted as rule of law for the beach.
Wait a minute. What do you mean they were all white? Because when I was there as a kid in the 60s and 70s, they weren't all white.
No,
Huh?
because when
No,
I
they
first
were
moved there,
true Art Deco.
oh,
Like,
they were. Okay, then my mistake.
no.
When I first moved there, most of those buildings were white on Ocean
That's my
Drive.
point. Of course, things change, and I again, we don't mean to be talking, but we can both talk over. We're still going to hear each other. My point is no, they were what I have seen since in their restoration of how that has all come back vibrantly.
How old were you when you used to go to South Beach? That's so cool.
So my grandparents owned a place in Bell Harbor.
They
right
did.
there. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you're like a pioneer there.
Oh my God, they were. And but they weren't, it's interesting. We saw a documentary within this last year. I don't remember the name, but you would be so fascinated by it. It was about these two young guys who documented South Beach during the 80s and maybe and maybe the 90s
Oh,
as
I'd love
well.
to see that.
Oh my God, you've got to see it. But anyhow, the way they depicted the Bubbies and the Papas on South Beach was not my Bubby and Papa. Because they were, and I didn't realize it. I mean, there's a lot I related to, and it made me very emotional. It made me go, "Oh my God, no, I didn't make this up. This really did exist."
Yeah.
Because it was magical for us as well. We would come down from, Rockford, Illinois, and Chicago area, and drive down or fly down, and it was the 60s and the 70s. I mean, I was starting
That's
to go.
so awesome. That's really awesome.
So it was, I mean, Lincoln Avenue, Ocean Avenue. We would stay at the Playboy Club. I knew the Fountain Blue way back when. When I went to film War Dog 2015, and I would have to go to the Soho House, and I won't say to take care of whom, but to spray tan my client. I would walk over to the Fountain Blue that has since, ironically, we were in cold case with Danny Pino. We would talk about the renovation because I think he had been invited. He had been invited along with every last person on the planet that was resonating with that area and what have you, to go to the reopening. And I walked through it. This was crazy. I walked through it like I would walk through the Playboy Club or something as a little kid, like at midnight, all by myself, to the point where I was like, I got to be really careful, but not. I mean, I wasn't doing anything illegal. It's just like you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You just like, there's just, it's big, and no, it was, I mean, everything from like, please, I just went blank. Joe Stone Crab House was like where I
Still
went.
there.
I mean, that was my childhood. The beach was my child, like,
That's so cool.
Yeah, but that's I think what's so fascinating and what I love about what unconsciously connects you and I. And I mean, everything from the cities to the art background, the hair background, the love of art, the love of apparel, the love of textiles, the love of wearable art, the love of just self-expression, the need and the passion to have to do that. I mean, from besides your, not besides your mom, in addition to your mom, what do you think is your purpose? Do you have those thoughts?
My purpose in life?
Yeah.
My purpose in life, I think, I know it's going to sound cliche, is kind of to bring beauty to the world. I know it sounds cliche, blah, blah, blah. Just to make, there's so much awfulness going on all the time that I really like to bring happiness to people. I like to make people laugh. I like to show them beauty. I think that is kind of my purpose. I think if it's funny because, financially we all struggle now and then, and we're just blah, blah, blah. I think if my purpose in life originally was to be wealthy and make a lot of money, it would have gone in a different direction, but I'd be wealthy. That was never a priority for me. When I was in the salon world, my hair cutting was my art form and is what I wanted to bring to the world. When I got to Miami and I started to develop my style of art, it's what I wanted to bring to the world. I was not successful with my art in Miami, but it did lay the groundwork for what happened once I got to LA.
So let's talk about, so you got to LA in 2001. It's correct?
2003.
2003. Oh, right. Because you had just, I remember, because then you started at the very beginning of Cold Case. So
Cold Case was my first job.
And that was 2004, right?
Yeah, it was. I knew one person here, an older gentleman hairdresser, and he's the one who actually told me the area when I found this apartment. I said, go look at it. And he's like, yeah, it's a nice area. And he gave me my first job, which was on Cold Case. And I was so green and didn't have a clue what I was doing because I came from the salon. And as you know, on Cold Case, it was a lot of period work.
Yeah.
Period hair work and makeup work. But for me, it was the hair work. And I was not that versed in it, I'll admit. So I found out names of all of the older established hairdressers in LA, in the film and TV industry. And I reached out to them. And I said, I'm on this show. I need help. Do you want to come and help me? And they did. And that's how I met and most of them are still friends of mine to this day. But yeah, that was a huge learning curve. But because it was a learning curve and because it was something new and a change, it was very exciting to me.
Oh, I would imagine, because it's all art.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a whole new thing. And I was making money doing it.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't even believe that. It was like, what?
Oh yeah, 100%. So when you said you called them up and said you wanted help, did that mean that you were hiring them or to come on the show?
Yes,
as
I was
additional
hiring them
players?
as day players.
Yeah.
To come and help me figure out, how do you do 30s here? How do you do 40s here? How do you do 50s here for the screen, which is different than what it is for real life, as you know from your beautiful makeup that you do.
Thank you.
So these women help.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's when, to me, the industry was magic. I found it's changed a lot over the 20 years I've been here. But in the beginning, we were a family. Nobody shied away from helping anybody else do whatever they needed to do. Those women were so wonderful to me.
I agree.
We'd do a 30 show, and I'd be like, okay. And they'd be like, here's your basic shapes. This is what the camera sees, blah, 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 blah. And I learned.
Yeah.
I kept my mouth shut and I watched and I learned. And that offered me not only a great education, but it gave me a great career in this town. It's just time now for me to move on.
And it's interesting that you say that, because, what people don't realize is the depth of all the ebbs and flows and strengths you need to bring to the table, or know who to surround yourself with to create those strengths when it comes to the art of filmmaking in the careers that we've been dedicated to, partially chosen but dedicated to more than anything, made a commitment to, not because it was maybe it's one of the love. I mean, I'm not speaking for you, but I think I can in this case, where we had many interests and many talents and many abilities. It was just, again, a right place at the right time, taking advantage of opportunities and going with it, and knowing that you could always change it.
Yeah.
But you and I also ended up in a field that, truth be told, that, unlike being an independent artist at the time that you were, or I would have been, and I was, but and being in the salon, the difference is that, good, bad, or indifferent, one of the best things about being in the film and television industry, yes, you are correct, it has shifted, is the fact that foundationally we've been fortunate to have structure because of being a part of a union.
Right. And
Go
what I
ahead.
loved the most about in the beginning in the industry was that, as an artist, you're an individual and an independent everything.
Yeah.
As a member of doing hair, makeup, costuming on TV or film, you are part of a team.
Yeah.
You cannot do it alone. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So generated a great thing between people.
Yeah.
Depending on other people, trusting other.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, the industry has changed dramatically and not in a direction that I find very appealing any longer. It seems everybody is a little independent. I don't want to be negative here. This goes out to the world. But it was, as you know, from when you and I met on Cold Case in 2004 or six, whatever it was, we were a team. You and I were a team. We did two
We were.
opposite things. I did hair, you did makeup, but you and I worked hand in hand to
We did.
create Catherine Morris, to
Yeah, we
create
did.
that character.
Yeah, we did.
And I drew from other people for inspiration on day players that I hired. You did the same thing. And it was a great time. That was a really great time.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was
It was
magnificent.
a great cast. It was an amazing crew. It was fantastic. Loved it.
It was. It was. And it's not about looking backwards. It's just knowing foundationally, like going back to what you were sharing about individuals that you were able to surround yourself with and gather information and learning from while hiring them, and everybody benefiting as a community.
Yeah.
Community and connection are huge in the world.
Yes.
You know, they say your network is your net worth. And look, I believe that I believe that there's truth to that, but I also believe that there are different facets to life and how people's paths are and what they do. And on certain things, I think, like, yeah, if you're an investor, real estate, whatever, your network is your net worth, like blah, blah, blah. And I do think that is who you know and who you don't know in this business will definitely, good, bad, or otherwise, as we both know.
Definitely influences lots of things in your life.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
And in our situation, you know, it is really like, consciously or unconsciously, we are gamblers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
I would never want to think of myself as a gambler, but the truth of the matter is every bit of it has been a big gamble.
Yeah.
Because you do not know when you walk in the doors who you're going to be met with. It's all cold. Meaning cold meetings. It's all just getting up and getting into it. Like there's no dipping your toe in the baby side of the water.
No.
You're taking jumps off of cliffs, and you're just going for it.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is not like maybe your skill is extraordinary, but the human beings that you're dealing with are like, you know, on another planet. Or you could be with absolutely an amazing creative team, and it's bliss, and you're like, pinch me, and I'm crying going to work out of joy and happiness.
Right.
or it could be like, how did I get here? You know, in a good way, or how did I get here in a, how did I get here? This is not what I signed up for. And again, that's not a negative. That's just an honest statement. And I don't think anybody would, when, for the most part, if they're in touch with like a long flow of a career, no matter if you work for major corporations or you do what we do, which we do work for major corporations, the truth is.
No, we do.
100% international corporations, like that's who runs Hollywood. It's not a mom and pop business at all. And so, you know, and like you said, because the business has changed so much in the last 20 years, there seems to be less understanding about what community. It's not that I'm not making an umbrella statement, but you know, community is not a clique. Community is, how do you raise each other up as an inclusive, diverse, on every level, but with authenticity, integrity, moral value, and as well as being artists and storytellers, and show up being leaders and self-developed, and leaving your toxicity at the door if that's what you're carrying around. And that's what we're That's what we walk with every day.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure that that's true in most industries. I didn't mean to cut you off,
No.
but I know that that's what we live with, and people have no idea. And it's not a whoa us. It's a no. It's a real crapshoot. Going back to gambling.
It absolutely is. It's every job you take, as you just said, is a huge chance. No idea what you're walking into. But on that note, I find it kind of exciting. I do have a tendency to get bored easily.
Yeah.
So all of this, which is why I enjoyed day playing for the past 3 years, because it's always something different.
Yeah.
And that I enjoy.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like yourself, I mean, I've had many long runs of series.
Mhm.
And then I've also had a lot of films in between that, had every position under the sun. And I agree with you right now that I have been grateful for all of the being able to bounce around. And when you want to be there, you hopefully get to be there. And when you don't want to be there, you get to say, no, I'm so grateful that I got to be here and I get to move on. Wiping camera frame.
Yeah. Camera left to right, please.
Just saying in the script, cat wipes frame.
Will you excuse me 1 minute? I want to go grab my cup of coffee.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pause.
What was I saying?
You're talking about having coffee.
Yeah, coffee in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Because I have enough trouble sleeping. But I have work to do. I need to get some files for some scarves out. Not to even, and I don't want to go into a whole thing, not to get political, but then a lot of my stuff is manufactured in China. And with what's going on, I'm afraid that's going to be stopped. I've started to research other countries because of this, but I need to get these things out. So I'm like, let me have coffee. I can chat with Felicia and then get back to work.
No, perfect. Well, this is a perfect segue because I do want to talk about how you are and have been in this transition and shift with your silk scarves that has your incredible artwork on, and talk about, developing your brand and being a small business entrepreneur that hopefully someday is an international label, whether, whatever. Like, I walked away the other day and I realized that the last scarves I saw was like Gucci met Ferragamo met I mean, it was just to the listener, whoever is listening to this funny conversation of ours that I think is delicious, like a good old French pastry or a cannoli. Let's not forget a cannoli or hello.
North End in Boston and get some cannolis.
Jesus God, why don't we have cannolis over this? For heaven's sakes, that would have been appropriate. I even lost my train of thought for a moment.
We're talking about the scarves.
The scarves, and I want to talk about your leap of faith and your passion and the time it's been taking you to actually create your business, and what has that been about and involved?
Well, I'm an official business, but my problem is I am not a good businessman. So it's taken me a long time to get what I create out there. I've had a couple of really bad directions with hiring marketing people, PR people over the past couple of years, really bad. And it does get discouraging, but I am determined to make this business a go. I believe, and I'm not stroking my own anything, but I believe I have a product that people want in the scarves. In my art, it's a different thing. Art is very subjective. You could have a room full of 10 people. One person will like a piece of art on the wall. The other 9 people will criticize it.
Right.
So that's much more difficult to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
I was been with 2 different galleries in LA since I've been here. I've had shows, et cetera, et cetera. That functions in itself, but I realized that the scarf business is a legitimate business to grow.
Yeah.
I have a couple of irons in the fire now about going the next step, business-wise. I want to make this the year it happens. And yes, I have been very determined since the beginning to make this happen.
Yeah.
So do I get discouraged when I call or go to 10 different retail stores and get turned away? Yes. But I come home and I pull up my big boy pants and I'm like, you know what? That's 10 people out of a million.
That's
So
right.
let's go to the next
Millions.
group. Let's go to the next group.
There's what, like 7 billion in the
Yeah.
world? But you know, what's a million? Fuck's
Yeah.
sake.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's
I
all
can
right.
swear on my podcast.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am now. I have I don't know if you know the story of how, I'll go into it if you'd like, how the designs and the scarves actually came about.
Yeah, no, that's what I want
Okay.
people to hear that, you know, I mean, having been somebody that, you know, we had coffee, and this is not the sideline we're about to jump into, but we had coffee. We were trying to figure this out the other day, what year it was, but I started developing my own lifestyle brand in 2010, post Cancer 11 rather. And I think you and I met, I think we decided it was around 2015, 16, as you and I had already started developing your stuff and I was developing my stuff. And I was seeking to be an American made company and still will be some, you know, knock wood someday. But my point is that we were having this conversation. And what people don't realize, especially in a day and age where everything is so instant, nothing is instant.
No, it isn't. I wish it was a little less laggy and a little bit more instant, but it isn't. I also realize now that a lot of my roadblocks to doing this have been myself. So that is, again, sounding cliche and very LA.
No, it's not. No,
that's-
no, it's not cliche. It's not LA. That's business.
That's what I'm working on now. Is I realize that a lot of my thought process is what was holding me back. And so that I'm in the process of changing.
So can we stop there for a second?
Yeah.
Because that's a very interesting thing, and I really appreciate your being open and vulnerable to sharing that, because you know, the pandemic that we're technically still in, whether people want to admit that or not, is, you know, now we're leveling up to going on 2 years starting this coming month. And it will be exactly 2 years on March 13th that our country shut down. And, you know, there was a lot of people who went through pivots and are still pivoting. And the world is pivoting and the earth pivots. And so, you know, again, this is about change. And when you talk about roadblocks, and how you found that to be, you know, about yourself, so to speak, where the roadblocks, where they came from, which leads me to limited beliefs. And limited beliefs are something that I get, because I think that with what we've been doing for our careers, it's never about you. It's about the people we're taking care of.
Correct.
And so, yes, you can be doing self-development, but you always have to, on a certain level, dim your light, because somebody else's light has to be brighter than the one that you're, when you're taken care of.
Mhm.
And so I think what happens, or what happened, I can only speak for myself, is I found myself like, oh, don't speak up, or don't be too funny, or don't be too talented, or don't be too artistic, or don't be too much of a problem solver. And these are your traits too. I'm not pointing a finger, but I'm saying like,
Mm.
and what we don't realize is it's like barnacles on a boat. And the barnacles on the boat collect, and you gotta fucking take those barnacles off every
Yeah.
6 fucking months.
Yeah.
And if you don't, all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, where did those 15 years of barnacles come from?
Yeah. Exactly.
And no matter how idealistic and how artistic and how talented and able to execute and stay up 24/7 and drink coffee later if you need to, because you need to get this out because you're trying to think 10 steps ahead, you still have to sometimes walk through these things. Some people just don't have that, have those multiple gifts to even have to like sludge through. But for somebody like yourself, and being yourself, you're just starting to, not that you're just starting, but because it's still in its uh more freshman level,
Yeah.
you're
This is
still
still
building
it's in
your team.
infancy.
Yeah, and that, I'm in the athleisure business now, and
Mhm.
if I could tell you how many evolutions we've gone through in my less than 2 years of being associated with this company, it's just part of the growing pains.
Yeah.
And those who stay the course, I mean, there's always going to be like the, do I have to today, or I've enough with the rejection today, or am I really capable of it today, or am I capable of even ever making this
We
happen
all have those
today?
questions.
Correct. And that goes back to limited beliefs. And my point, the reason why I want to highlight it is because I think people think that, oh, they got it so well, or that just came to them, and in many cases that's not the case. And I just wanted to stop for a second and say that. So you realize you have these beliefs, and you realize you have these blocks, but in the same time, you continue to go forward. And what took course from all of that with your designs and so forth?
What's my course for it?
No, what took course? What took course from you realizing you had roadblock, that you had your own limited beliefs and roadblocks? What
I
happened to your
Because
development?
I have always, from the day I started with these scarves, I've always believed in. I've always believed in this product.
Yeah.
As far as art is concerned, I believe in my art, but like I said, it's not a mass appeal to me. The scarves I design aren't a mass appeal to me, but they appeal to a larger percentage of people. And I've always believed in this.
Mhm.
So I think that's what's kind of kept me going with this, because as you know, from trying to start a small business to
Mhm.
having manufacturing, et cetera, it's not a cheap thing to
No,
do. So
no.
at any point, it would have been extremely easy for me to just walk away
Mhm.
and just say, okay, that was another life experience. Let's
Mhm.
go on to do something else.
Mhm.
I believe in this business. I
Mhm.
believe in this product. Um, and I'm determined to make it big.
And you will, for certain. I mean, again,
Have to.
well, and no, again, and you will, because you believe. And belief is a big, like, it's huge, because that's where your confidence comes. That's where you're continually showing up, that you don't, you do work through those roadblocks. You do,
Right.
seek to solve your problems. Because you keep your vision in the forward. You're
Mhm.
looking ahead, you're looking to the accomplishments, you're looking to fulfill continue to fulfill your beliefs, and every step is fulfilling your belief. That's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
Realization, and you're realizing it like a snowball gets bigger
Yeah.
and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I mean, ironically, even though in person, I mean, I know I've seen your scarves, but in person this last week or so, when we got together, was when I was able to really engage with them in the way I did, which is silly, but nonetheless, I was so appreciative because they're so absolutely ravishingly stunning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, no,
That's
really.
what you saw the other day is a whole new direction that I'm going in with it. I'll give you a very brief thing of it. Yes, I know a lot of people look down on me because I manufacture in China. I was determined in the beginning when I started these scarves to have my product manufactured in the United States.
Mhm.
And I paid for and sampled about 20 companies in this country because I was determined to keep my business in this country. The work was not good and the price was double. And I told you this story, I'll repeat it here.
Yeah,
I had a
please.
friend who teaches at FIDM, Fashion Design School here in Los Angeles. And I would get all these samples back from these companies in America of scarves. And all the scarves came back the same. The printing was beautiful. And you flipped it over and the back was white. Wasn't acceptable to me. So I called him and I said, can we have lunch? I want to talk to you. I'm lost. I don't know where to go with this. So I went to the school. I brought the samples. I showed him the samples. I explained my situation. And he looked at me and said, I have one question, Bruce. Who invented silk? I said, the Chinese. He said, end of conversation. Let's go to lunch. And that started me on a 2-year journey of writing and sampling companies in China to manufacture my product.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is now. Now what I'm looking into, I'm researching companies in Italy and France and eventually England to kind of move it into that direction.
Yeah.
But again, the companies in Italy are far more expensive for me to produce my product. I'm not a big company. I'm not Gucci that has 50,000 scarves printed. Therefore, I can have them done for $7 a piece. I'm a limited budget. I have 25 to 50 units made. The price is going to be astronomical per unit.
Right.
So that's the research area I'm in now, is trying to find other manufacturers around the world to do this. I tested a manufacturer in India about 3 months ago. Wasn't successful. Wasn't what I wanted, wasn't what my brand was, etc. So what you saw, I mean, I'll go into a little description of them. The scarves you saw the other day is a new process that this one particular company I work with is starting to do, and it's double printing. It's different image on both sides.
Yeah, so basically it's a reversible scarf.
Correct. So you're getting 2 scarves in one.
Right.
It makes it beautiful. When the scarf is on and it opens up, you have a completely different color and or design on the inside. It's a different fabric, which I was shy about using in the beginning, which I'm now completely married to. And that's where it is. And I believe that this new design scarf is what's going to propel the next step.
Absolutely is. It's going to catapult it 100%. I believe that.
I mean, not because I designed them. All I do is design the manufacturing process, the printing process, the fabric manufacturing is exquisite. So I know the product is good product.
It is.
And again, sadly, I couldn't find that quality in this country.
It is unfortunate.
I wanted to do.
No, it is unfortunate. And look at, I mean, again, these are conversations that, I want to authentically share, because that was never your intention. Like you said, that's what you stated. And yet you find yourself after lots and lots of research. And that's the interesting thing, I mean, unless you're like, I don't know whether it's generations or preemptive connections or whatever the case may be. I know myself, I sit on, thankfully paid outright, lots and lots of prototypes, and went through several manufacturers where in some cases, one case particularly, I was in queue for a year and they never made the prototype in a manufacturing sense, where you're trying to like get to a point of launch and you're figuring out your last,
Right.
hurdles before you go into not mass marketing, but, marketing in the level of you're producing hundreds of, and thousands
Right.
versus, you can't even get out the gate because they haven't worked out the kinks for you.
Right.
And unlike yours, my pieces were very engineered, not scarves. We
Right.
both did that.
You have a very engineered product, a very beautiful product. And it is very engineered. You could see it. You could see when you look at it. This is, I think, the first time I saw it when you and I had lunch and you brought that. I was just like, this is a lot of work. This product is a lot of work to manufacture.
Yeah.
Because you could just see it. It's a beautiful product.
Thank you.
And I hope that you get it produced.
Thank you. Thank you. And going back to you and your scarves and your venture, I mean, it's like from the time you started doing your initial research here in your backyard, whether it be LA or the East Coast or what have you, from the time you made that decision to where you are now, how much, and yours is not that, this is not, there's a reason for this, because there, even if you were urgent in the sense of your intention, it does take time. So how much time has it taken up till now?
It has taken about 6 or 7 years to this point. And that includes 2 years and a half or so, 2 years worth of nothing but research. Having samples made from all kinds of places. I've always been fascinated with fabrics. My background is Lebanese. I've always been fascinated with carpets, tapestries. It's what I grew up with. But once I started this, it was a huge learning curve because I knew nothing about silks. I really knew nothing about the weights of fabrics, how fabrics are manufactured. And when I got into it, I didn't want to just trust them to say, oh yeah, we have this fabric and we're going to print it. I found out who manufactures their product, how it's manufactured. Because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn what the different fabrics are, how different fabrics receive ink.
Yep.
How far does the ink go? Does it penetrate? Does it not? What fabrics? So that was a lot of time. So that was probably about 7 years, like I said, including the 2. So 5 years, it's been about 3 or 4 years. I honestly can't remember. I think 4 years since I actually started the company. Bruce Samia.
So, you basically went to undergrad and grad school to get your learning curve on textiles before you launched into your actual product.
Correct. Because I had no concept. I had no concept the difference between, I knew when I felt it and I'm like, oh, what a beautiful fabric. Oh, look at this beautiful brocade. Look at this. But I really didn't know the differences between chiffons and twills and satins and silk cottons and that kind of thing. And so it's been very interesting. I think it's very fascinating to me personally. And I'm glad it's fascinating to me because otherwise it would be a boring thing. When I'm designing a scarf, I design a scarf for a specific fabric. Knowing from experience how the different fabrics accept inks.
Yeah, and how they accept inks, and then on top of it, how do they hold and fold and flow and
Correct.
wrap and
Correct.
and fabrics make a difference. And you do know this growing up in the women's fashion ready to wear that I had the pleasure of being third generation. Like I've
Yeah.
been around, like textiles to me
Yeah.
are like, oh, you
Second
do,
nature
you immediately
too.
know. So it resonates with me what you said, like at one point you were talking and chills ran up me and I was like, oh, I know what it was. You were saying with your background of being Lebanese, my background being, what it is being a Sicilian Jew. And I was just like, I mean, honestly, our souls are meant to be intertwined. Like you can't
Oh,
get rid of me,
absolutely.
Bruce. You cannot get rid of me.
No, we're all the same people. And if everybody in the world realized that, we could have an amazing, amazing experience here. And we could go
100%.
on to conquer anything. But
100%.
it's just anyway, I don't want to get into
No,
political discourse, but
no, listen, I love that you said that because here's the truth. And again, this is not about going back to why I do this podcast, but it is. I'm not doing a podcast on, your spirituality. I'm not doing a podcast on menopause. I'm not doing a podcast on, how to grow hair. I'm doing it about life stories. How did we get here? How do we do this together? How do we resonate with one another? How do we agree to disagree? It doesn't matter. This is what it's about. And this to me is what's most important is if we don't have that realization that all this is our togetherness and our being the greatest bank account. I don't mean the money in the bank. I mean just the richness we bring together in exchange and interplay that we're missing the boat completely. Like, what are we doing here?
Yep, we're missing the boat now.
Oh,
We have
100%.
we have an amazing, diversified world that could become the absolute future. And all we do is bicker. That's all we do is bicker. It's just mind-boggling to me that people just can't. What's that old saying? Can't we all get along?
Yeah. That old saying from 1994.
Yeah. Can't we all get along? But no. Anyway, so through all that, I think like you and I have a connection. There's other people around, and I think if that continues and continues to grow, I believe good always trumps evil.
Yeah.
And hopefully, and again, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm in my golden years. Really is not going to matter much in my life how much the world it will change in the next 20 years if I live 20 years, but it's not going to really affect me. I'm set in my ways. I have my road. I know what I want to do with my life. I just feel bad for this whole young generation having to come up and deal with this. And I laugh when I think that because I sound like my mother and father when I was young.
Right. No. I mean, I know it is a nutty thing to be at this point in time and see what's going on in our world and what's going on in our world right now as we have this conversation is Russia attacking Ukraine. And we're literally within like 3 days of this happening. And the sad truth is, and this is not a political statement and get off of talking about art and scarves and manufacturing being small business, but it's all again intertwined by you trying to get this business off the ground and get it, on the shelves and, manufactured and being sold. The world market is affected in every way,
Absolutely.
No matter what you do.
Absolutely.
And the world market, are a big thing. Pardon?
The world market, shipping.
Completely.
The worse situations get, the more afraid people are to spend extra money.
Completely.
Especially after we've been locked down for 2 years.
Completely.
This was supposed to be a time now that, yes, we are still in a pandemic, but I believe we're on the brighter side of it a bit. We're starting to come out of it. People are starting to live a little bit more. They're starting to spend. The last thing we need is world's catastrophe. Which is
Right,
what's going on now. And everybody is just going to stop short again.
right.
We're never going to progress.
Well, we will progress, but the concern for this, and this is not to be gloom and doom, but the rock in the water has already started. Just the mere fact of how many people have been displaced,
Oh,
and the
it's only just the
separation
beginning.
of mothers and children from men that can't leave their country between the age of 18 and 60 because they have to stay back and fight for their country. And this is a weird statement, but I'm not sure if it's because it's Russia or because people are more fair in skin, or more combined of like the fear of Europe being like, again, the replication of, or the reflection of how you think about this potentially being a World War III. And again, how that affects the economics of everything, as it's already started to show with the stock market and what have you. Again, these are conversations that I don't get off on having, but I can honestly tell you, Bruce, in my last handful of days, I can think of a month ago when our president made this announcement and he was looked down upon from everybody, from the Ukrainian leader to across the board for talking out of his, basically the side of his mouth. And yet here we are, and the unfortunateness of this country being attacked.
Yeah.
And, I'm not making Biden right or wrong, or anybody right or wrong. I'm saying that's what happened, and that's what was the response. And I mean, it's like, growing up as a young girl, a little girl, watching and seeing, not because I asked for them, but seeing many, many Holocaust movies and not living through it, thank God, but feeling like there's an aspect of you having lived through it, or maybe your soul's lived through it, or maybe a combination of both. And I remember this morning seeing the news and having friends who are over there and who are on social media telling their story, and have been for the last so many days, and didn't leave the country, sadly, because of whatever information they were getting, they were not getting the correct information. And not to say that they would have left, but they may have, they may have.
They may have, but it's kind of fascinating to me. I know, they put that rule down, or rule, or whatever you want to call it, in Ukraine, that men can't leave because they have to fight. But it's fascinating to me to watch this happen. The entire country of Ukraine is behind this to fight off this oppressor. That would never happen in this country.
Yeah.
If Mexico decided to invade the United States, we wouldn't rally as a solid group, I don't believe. I would hope we would, but that's what I find kind of fascinating with this whole thing. I mean, you have the president of the country in combat gear out on the streets.
Right. Right. No, I mean,
anyway, we don't want to get too political.
No, but going back to being a small business.
Yes.
And the concerns that you have are understandable because of time, cost, and time, money, and what you're trying to accomplish, and the hard work that has led up to the past 7. Is it 7 years that you took the research, and now 4 years in business? So it's 11 years total.
Like four or five years in business.
Okay. So is it 4 and 5 years in business that includes all your education?
No, education's an ongoing thing. I'm always reading about fabrics, textiles, new inks, new. It's it's like when I do my art. I'm always researching,
campus,
teaching myself new programs. All my art is digital. I do all my work on the computer. So right now I'm in the process of trying to teach myself another program. to see if I can take that one step further. But yeah, no, the research, I think, for anybody, even with you, it's ongoing. We're students.
Yeah.
I know you love to learn. I love to learn.
Yeah.
I like to know new things.
Yeah.
Because I hate to be wrong in a conversation.
Well, it's funny that you said, when I was doing research, initially there was a particular textile that I was bound and determined to figure out how to find against all avenues. And when I finally found it, I think I was just, to actually find it in my own backyard, ironically, like the manufacturers, I was just beyond elated, because everything is to me like, how does this feel? How yummy and delicious is it? How durable is it? How utilitarian is it? How fashionable is it? How versatile is it? How long is it going to wear and tear? Like all those things. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I think growing up in the business, those were just natural kind of like engagement conversations or thoughts.
Right.
That's not everybody's thought. So
no, it isn't. But you and I produce a product that is very personal to the consumer. Mm-hmm. We're not building a TV that, yeah, this is my TV, but it's not gonna give me anything else. Mm-hmm. We make products that become a part of that consumer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're carrying your product. They're wearing my product. It becomes a personal experience to me.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's all part of the storytelling process. I'm a storyteller by nature. My art is storytelling. I tell a story in every piece. Every scarf is a story in itself. Every design on every scarf is made from my own photography. I know where every photograph was taken. They're put together to create a narrative. Mm-hmm. Yes, you hold up a scarf, it's a really pretty design, but to me, it's a story because I know the combination of what everything is.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So yeah, I like being a storyteller.
But that is a very important, and I love that you touched on that, because storytelling as an artist, for every artist, is different. And not all artists are conscious of storytelling, and others are like, it's all it's about, It's not just about a filmmaker or an actor. Like all you have to do is look around. And for somebody like you, or for me, where, my mission statement about my product is all about a story and a purpose, yours clearly, I like you, love and always feel that everything is driven by storytelling. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the insight to your scarves is that, would everybody know that unless you have an addendum to your scarf? No,
they would not know that. With the scarves, that's not an important issue with me. With my artwork, the storytelling is an important issue. And when a piece of my art is in a gallery and somebody questions it, that is part of my narrative. I'm a storyteller. Here is my story. And basically, I think it falls over into the scarf designs from my art. When I create art digitally from my own photography, my own drawings, whatever, my goal with a piece of art is that the viewer, and I do, I think you've seen them, but I do this scribble writing on my artwork. And it's done as an automatic writing. It is based on Arabic and Asian calligraphy, predominantly Arabic calligraphy. And it says nothing. And my purpose of doing that is so that when the viewer looks at a piece of my art, they will see an image, because I do multiple images in it, an image that would resonate with them. For instance, oh, there's a picture of a rose. I remember when I was a little boy, I used to go to this garden with my grandmother, and there were these beautiful roses. Thus, the story becomes your own. That writing becomes your story. It's out of my hands. Once it's finished, it's out of my hands. This now belongs to who's ever looking at it or buying it or whatever. But I approach that the same way with the scarves, but not as blatantly. It's some scarves have flowers, some scarves have patterns on them. Some scarves have color combinations that, yes, when somebody looks at it, they will say, oh my God, I remember my grandmother had a scarf, had a dress that was dark green, and she used to wear this orange sweater with it. And I thought it was so funny. And you make a scarf that's dark green and orange. So it now becomes a personal journey and a personal experience for that person. And that is kind of what my mission statement is. Yes, I'd love it to be global. I'd love it to be accessible. But I've had the opportunity to turn this into a mass marketing, inexpensively made product, and I've turned it down because that's not what I want. That's not what I want to leave the world. I'd like to leave the world something beautiful. I just want to leave beauty behind. That's it.
Well, it's interesting because my last few questions incorporated, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to inspire? And what do you want to leave the world? So, go ahead.
That's what I want to leave the world. I want to leave the world beauty to look at. My art, my scarves, especially my art. I've never done political art. I've never done statement art. If I did, I probably could have 5 galleries in Los Angeles, because that's the majority of the work that's there is political, et cetera, et cetera. That's what people react to. I've never done that. I don't want to make that kind of statement. All I want to do is give people something pretty to look at, something to think about. That's kind of always been my goal with this. When I was in the salon industry, I never made the kind of money that the other hairdressers in the salon made, because I refused to do all that cookie cutter stuff. Everything was individual. Every haircut was individual, because I wanted to leave beauty to people. I wanted to make things a personal experience for whoever is the recipient of this. And hopefully that can resonate enough to get me to the next step of this whole scarf business. Again, I'm not patting myself on the back or whatever, but I have a sellable, I think the word is saleable. I have a very saleable product that needs to get out to people. And I am now currently looking for people to get it out there. Like I said, I've hired people over the years. I've got screwed over with money. They've all promised me the moon. They've all disappeared. And as upsetting as that is, I use that as a lesson. The last time that happened to me, my very first thought was, screw this. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I'm never going to get this out there. And went to bed and woke up the next morning and said, you know what? All the more reason to continue.
Oh, yeah.
All the more reason. So let's do something else with it today.
Yeah.
Because
lights
again,
you up.
Going back to the beginning, I believe in my product.
Well, you have every reason to believe in your product, but more importantly, you have every reason to believe in you.
Yes, I do. Well, you know what we all struggle with. I believe in me on certain levels. And then there's the doubtful me that some mornings are afraid to get out of bed because you're like, oh, really? I've got to face this today. But yeah, I think it's, and you know very well because you've been into this longer than I have. believing in yourself, believing in, hate to use the word, but higher powers, forces that help shape us and shape our decision, unlike a cat who keeps walking through the screen. Movie cat.
I mean, there's reasons for
The
these
movie
things.
cat, can I say? Just had his hair called, so he needs to show it off.
He knows his cues.
Yeah, he knows his cues. We had a grooming morning. We all had
And
manicures.
he is showing off.
And he's showing off.
Did you get this angle?
Beautiful.
I'm sorry, did you miss something? Let me show you again.
It's so true. But so I think, yeah, I mean, this is great to talk about this stuff because, you do these podcasts, you talk to a lot of people about very personal things. I don't usually, I don't really get that personal with people. I also most of the time, don't open myself up. This is the most open I think I've been. And it's because I trust you. And I think it's very good. I know this is a very good step to be able to open up and really talk. So it's been great. Thank you.
Oh, well, first off, thank you. And it's my pleasure. And it's interesting because exactly what you just said right now is part of what's also behind why I love doing this so much.
Yeah.
Because I love bringing out people's vulnerabilities, not like in a manipulative way, just in a very authentic way, because I truly am curious about what makes people tick, more so maybe than one even takes the time to open up to the possibilities of discussing. No different probably than an example as today where, why would you leave yourself open? Why would you have that conversation? Who's asking me these questions? Is anybody asking me these questions? Why aren't they asking you these questions? I mean,
Alicia, over the years, people, let me interrupt you 1 second. Over the years, people have asked me these questions that you ask me, and I shut right up. It's you that I'm comfortable opening up. Well, we had that connection the first day we met. When I walked into that trailer and you walked into that trailer and I was at this end doing her hair and you were at that end doing her makeup, I remember it so. We looked at each other and we were just like, okay, let's go.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And again, it really makes me feel so good that you trusted to sit down and open up and share your story, because Bruce, it's so powerful and it's so important and it's so valid. You bring so much value and you need to hear how much you're appreciated for what your journey is and what you're teaching and what you've learned and what you've shared. What you put out into the world is really super powerful. And whether it's your story or your stories in your scarf or your art or the journey you've taken, it all matters. And it's interesting, as I sat here listening, I was thinking, I personally think, and this is not giving away any secrets or whatever, I mean, I can have a sidebar meeting with you not being recorded, but I really think that this is important. I really do think your narrative should be attached to your scarves, because I think telling that story on a piece of paper or in a nice, one of your beautiful cards attached to it is something that people would really appreciate, because the value expands from their inside. They're getting the inside story to why this scarf is so much more than just a scarf.
Yes, and you know what? I avoided that when building my e-commerce website and doing all that. I avoided that kind of personal thing. And it's interesting because the past couple of weeks I've been thinking, I don't know if that's too much to put on a website. The last marketing person I hired was like, you don't want to get too personal. She was setting it up like an Etsy site. And I'm like, not my thing. That's not my thing.
I disagree.
If I wanted it to look like an Etsy site, I'd go on Etsy. I want this to be a little bit personal. And she's like, well, it's not really good business. And I'm like, I kind of differ. So recently I've been thinking of that, of going back in and putting that kind of story back in on the website, and you just validate. So
yes, this is my intuitive.
This week I will.
Thank you, because this is my intuition, like my intuition healing moment of sharing with you of what I'm seeing and why it will open the floodgates.
Yeah, I you know what? And I like I said, I mean, I've been thinking of this in the back of my head for a bit now, but you and I sitting down and talking about this, when I hear myself talking about it, I'm like, it is valid. When I mentioned it to a couple of other people, they were like, oh no. That's not how you do any website. That's not how you sell a product. That's not how you promote your brand. And I'm like, I keep thinking to myself, I believe it is, but okay, they're the experts in this field. No. I'm not an expert in marketing, so I'm going to listen to them.
No. We'll talk off the recording. So you are so very welcome. No,
because you validated everything I've been thinking.
Well, it's funny because we're going to keep this recorded. I'm going to wrap this up soon, and we'll keep this in the recording for the moment. But when we met a little over a week ago, I wanted to call you about many things that I wrote down from a business perspective, ideas that I wanted to share with you related to your stuff. So in listening to you today, in this different conversation than we had a couple weeks ago, somewhat different, but much different actually overall. There's many things I want to discuss with you regarding, bouncing things off of you. Let's get together.
And we'll do some lunch. Do a little nosh. Do a little chit.
Always have to have the nosh. We'll make up for it. We'll get the cannolis and go from there because,
you find good cannolis in LA, let me know. I'll be in the car.
Jesus God.
Because I try to find a good bagel. Finally, there's a few places that have decent bagels here.
Where's that?
There's a place in Toluca Lake, across from the old Cinema Secrets. It's called.
You're talking about? Yeah. What's the
little
name?
Black place of Dave Deli.
Harry, Greg, whatever his name is.
Yeah, something deli. He makes delicious
Hank.
Thank you. Hank's Deli. He makes delicious bagels.
Good to know.
Yeah, good to know if you need them. I've had them and I bought them to bring places, and I'm not embarrassed by it.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a line out there.
That's exactly why there's a line out there. Baked fresh.
I love
it. I think they import water from New York, maybe. I don't know.
Good to know.
Whatever it is, they make a bagel that comes the closest to a New York bagel. And come on, I'm an Arab, but what's better than a toasted bagel? Come on.
Please. I mean, don't get me started.
Cup of coffee, a nice toasted bagel, a little cream cheese. And then for lunch, we can have the hummus war. Who made better hummus? My people, your people.
Don't even, there's not a competition.
That's the only kind of wars I think we should all fight.
Only
who makes the better hummus?
Only food wars. Who makes it better?
Correct. Absolutely. But no, so thank you very much for this. This was much more comfortable than I thought.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I was a little stressed during the day today. But
no need. Here, hold on before we finish. I thank you. I really look forward to being able to share your story with the world. And because I think, and that's not to make you nervous, that I just think that your story is fascinating. I think it will resonate with a lot of people. I think it will give people a sense of going out into the world and taking the leaps of faith. I get that there's generations right now that are like, so I knew that already. No, there's more to it than that. There's no guarantees in life. No matter how willing and confident and cocky and egotistical and that you think you got it all going on, you can have it all going on and the shit can hit the fan.
Oh,
or you
yeah.
can have it all going on and you can have lucky stars and alignment.
Yeah.
But the truth is life is a journey. And I thank you for sharing your up till now journey. And I look forward to hearing what your next 20 years of success in your journey and masterfully,
This is going to be a decisive year.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
So
It's really exciting.
yeah.
And I'm excited for you. And I'm
Thank you,
excited for
darling.
anybody who gets hold of anything that you create. Sitting down with my friend Bruce was so much fun. After all these years of knowing each other since 2006, to discover how many reasons why we have such a beautiful connection just warmed my heart. And exactly why I do this podcast, because it just resonates with me and how I hope it resonates with you. Why creating connections and conversations are so wonderful, fun, heartwarming, inspiring, empowering, and how a candid conversation can just change people's lives. I really look forward to you coming back and subscribing and listening and sharing this platform of the Camp Fifi Uncensored podcast. And I look forward to you tuning in next week as I sit down with another dear friend of mine. And I look forward to you joining this community and being a part of something that's super special to me around the campfire. Thank you so much. Bye for now.